friends beyond the binary. Welcome to the Thursday Discourse for today, October 14th, 2021. This month is already half over. How the hell is that a thing? Hi, I'm Tristan. I'm the host of the YouTube channel Step Back and the podcast It's Probably Not Aliens, now available at all places you can get podcasts. And episode 6 recently dropped, so yeah, check that out. I stream typically on Mondays and Tuesdays. Monday I do the Monday Discourse with Mia Mulder from 12 till 2 Eastern. This Thursday stream I'm doing right now is sort of a make-up for Monday's stream because on Monday it was Thanksgiving here in Canada, so just couldn't do the stream that day. So instead we're doing it today. Oh, wrong mic. Oh. Here's the problem. My microphone was pointed in a completely different direction. Here we go. Everything is good now. Yeah, and on Tuesday nights I do Step Back Tonight. It's a podcast or a stream I run from 7 till 10 Eastern on Tuesdays, and we go over the news, answer some questions, talk about stuff with just me. I go by he, him pronouns. You can find my work at patreon.com/stepbackhistory. If you want to support my work, you can go to patreon.com/stepbackhistory. Or if you have Amazon Prime, you get 1 free Twitch Prime subscription per month. And if you choose Step Back, I'll be very grateful. Also, of course, if you have the dosh to spare, Twitch subscriptions, bits, super chats, all welcome and loved and appreciated. If you haven't checked it out, my latest video is called I Was So Wrong About Conspiracy Theories. It's a bit old now, but it's basically a revisit of my first Step Back video. And my next video is on overpopulation, which I will very tentatively say will be finished sometime next week. I'm kind of in a weird space right now because I don't technically need to be done the video until the end of the month, but I also have a freelancing contract that I need to have done by next week. So, but I am, making good progress on it. So I'm hoping that either next week I'll be able to finish sort of the work of that pretty quickly, and I can get to work on the video because it's probably only like 1 or 2 days left of work on it, and then I can get it out. So I'm hoping next week it'll at least be out for patrons. So yeah, there's that. And if you want to submit questions for future streams, we got a lot of questions today, so probably wouldn't get to it today, but I hang on to questions for a month. So I'm just going to put it in the chat. You can submit questions there. It's a Google form. It should be pretty easy. Last thing before we get me on the horn, I just want to say to all of you guys, if this is your first time watching a Step Back stream, please say hello. We have a really great community here. Really good conversations happen while I'm yammering on in the stream, and you guys bring some really great energy to this whole thing. I really appreciate all you guys who ask so many good questions. I've actually gotten compliments on the high caliber or the high quality of the questions I receive from guests who've been on these streams. So thank you. And yeah, if it is your first time here, say hello, join in, be part of the conversation because, more voices. Gumbo Yaya, which is a term for, oh gosh, what was it a term for? But it's the sort of the beauty that comes out of making all sorts of different voices come together and be told. It's a pretty old Creole term, I think. All right, let me just open up my questions dossier. And then I'll call Mia. All right. Let's go, Mia Mulder.
Hello. Let's hope everything works now. And it doesn't seem like it is. Hello?
It's working. I can see you. Just 1 second. I have to change the window real quick because now you're on the other side of the screen instead of the last screen. So I just have to change the crop a little bit.
Yes, because I've moved, so everything's now different.
Yeah, you're coming from your new compound. On
Yeah, in my new cult compound on my private island.
You've now conquered the island of Gothland, and you are now the Queen of Gotland. So, or whatever
Yeah.
the name of that island between Sweden and Finland is called that you guys fight over.
Oh, that's Åland.
Åland.
So
Yeah.
we have Åland, and we have Öland, and then there's Gotland, which is the big one.
I only know. Okay, you know what? I can't give out royal titles, but I'm gonna make you Queen of the Skagerrak. I know it's a body of water, but I think you can work with it.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll fuck with that.
It'll piss off the Danes, so that'll make you happy.
I'm very happy with
to name
that.
a Swede the Queen of the Skagerrak Strait. Is it a strait? What is it?
I have no idea. I don't really know that much about Scandinavian geography, if I'm honest.
The Skagerrak is sort of the waters between Denmark and Sweden. The like little
Yeah.
bridge of water that you go through to get from the Baltic Sea to the North Sea.
That makes sense. All I know is that Vikings were there.
Lots of Vikings. Viking on
That's
Viking
all I know.
action.
Viking on Viking gang violence happened definitely.
Yeah,
in that
Google
area.
Google Viking on Viking crime.
Oh, this is horrible.
That was my worst joke. I'm sorry. I cancel myself for that one. But yeah, you're looking very pink today, and why don't you tell all the wonderful people where this pink person's content can be found?
You can find Pink Person content on YouTube. Well, I guess miamulder.com. I've been building a website on there for the last 80 years, so one day it's going to come up a website there. But even when there is a website there, you'll find my YouTube channel on it. But right now, it just takes you to my YouTube channel directly. I made a video yesterday about psychiatry, so if people like that shit, people could go there.
Yes, it's on my watch later. So while I'm on a very long walk, I will listen to it.
That's good. It's a very
It's a-
mellow video. It's good for listening to, I think.
Yeah, I have a bad. So like, here's the thing. This is a real fast way to get off track. But I have this like desire to be a little bit more ambitious in my editing, and also sorry for the dramatic lighting. There's a wall like right here, so I need to like I don't have any space to put, and there's only one outlet in this new office, so I need to. There's not much space to put a fill light here. So I need to get like I have one, but I have to put it in place, a reflector thing, so that I don't look like I'm like telling a scary story with this like dramatic shadow.
Well, sometimes, it does feel like you're gonna read us like a creepypasta on YouTube.com
It's true.
about like the Russian sleep experiment or something.
You've got a solid setup going. You've got the halo, the fill light, or the backlight. I can't remember what it's called. I'm trying to remember 3-point lighting in my head.
I'm in the middle of setting this up right now. So what I have is an IKEA lamp in front of me to make sure that I'm not like just fully illuminated by my monitor. And then there's like 3 office lights up above me that I've just now today replaced with smart lights, which that I haven't quite figured out how to like configure optimally yet, but I'll get there eventually.
And your bisexual setup is almost done.
It's almost done. It's not quite as bisexual as I would like it. I can probably make it even like extraordinarily bisexual.
Yeah,
Like that. That's pretty bisexual.
it's like bisexual and cyberpunk at the same time. Goes well
That's
with
how it
the
should
synthwave music.
Oh hell yeah! I keep forgetting that you have music to these streams
Yeah,
because I don't. Because I only hear your voice.
Yeah, you don't even see my face. You just like hear a disembodied voice.
I'm looking at the stream, so I do see your face, but I do see it in like a 40-second delay.
Well, also you should everybody in the chat. You should also listen to Leechfest and pay money, $15
Yeah.
for a year at nebula.app to get free nature documentaries and free Mia content. You can learn how I did that. Apparently, every creator that I'm into is has either abandoned or has pretended to abandon for the sake of a sponsorship Adobe Premiere, and everyone's talking about DaVinci or whatever. That was That was a fun set of things. I was like, oh, everyone's using
Yeah,
DaVinci now. Okay, sure.
yeah, that's yeah.
Friendship with Premiere over. DaVinci's my friend now.
Listen, I'm just saying that I made a video for the Nebula show called Better Elevations, and it's a perfectly fine editing software. It's really good.
Listen,
I don't.
I'm far
listen.
too invested in Premiere now. I can't even. I wouldn't even be able to pretend.
Yeah.
Oh,
If you do want to get Nebula, by the way, you should go to curiositystream.com/miamolder and use my link. You'll get a 26% discount.
yeah.
You get them both at the same time.
I could tell this story. So I finally bit the bullet and bought the Curiosity Stream Nebula Duo pack for $15 a year because I was like, that's nothing. I'm gonna get that. Lunch
Yeah.
costs more than that. But then what I did is I clicked the link on the latest Philosophy Tube video, and it comes pre-filled in with Philosophy Tube as the coupon code. And
Yeah.
so I was just like, on a whim, I'm like, I bet if I write Mia Mulder in here, someone who probably could use the money more is going to get it. And so I wrote Mia Mulder and I pushed it and it worked. And then I messaged you saying, hey, I just gave you money for using coupon code Mia Mulder for my discount. And you're like, that's not released yet. That's not public.
Yeah, I was like, how the fuck did you do that? But yeah, like, because I think you were probably the first person to use that code, like, unless someone went back to like an ancient video of mine where I used that code. So someone, some like an analysis person at CuriosityStream is like a bit confused as to why this link got like people joining it before the video was released.
Yep. I just went my pro hacking skills, and then I'm like, if I wrote Mia Mulder in this, I bet that she has a working coupon code for this.
And I did. And you should, because then they like me better, hopefully.
Yeah, and it's been a few weeks since we last did a stream, and so much has happened. There's been some pretty sweet Lower Decks episodes. You moved. You lost your desk for several weeks.
I lost half my desk for several weeks
Do you
for
have?
some reason.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, because one time you were like, I can't make the stream today because I don't have a desk.
Yeah, because I had just moved to my new apartment, and I was convinced that I was gonna get the desk later in the weeks, and I hadn't set up a computer or anything, so I was just like, oh, fine, I'll move like a stream or two. I moved like one of my Patreon streams as well, because I figured that like by the weekend I'll get the desk. The week comes and goes. I don't have a desk. The next week comes and goes, and I still don't have a desk. At which point I'm like, okay, fuck it. I just have to set up my computer in like in the kitchen, because I can't not do streams. Like I have to work. And another week after that goes by, and at the end of that week, I finally get my fucking desk. I had to call around 2 warehouses so that they could like physically go and look with a flashlight for my desk. And even then, I had to call to the like they sent it on to the next warehouse. I had to call them, being like, "Did you lose it again?"
Oh no. This is very not or kind of only apropos of the situation, but I'm just imagining Swedish movers where like this like long ship shows up and they just like run out and they just like raid your apartment and put it into boxes and put it in the ship and move on to your new place.
Yeah. That's basically how moving companies work in Sweden.
Yeah, that sounds like it was real annoying. It's like when I moved from Toronto and the step backet disappeared.
Yo, the what?
my what's it called? My tweed jacket just disappeared.
Oh yeah. Oh
They found your desk right next to my tweed jacket.
yeah. Most likely in a warehouse in like West Sweden.
I just hired some cheap and therefore very sketchy movers. So they also just like left a moving blanket in my apartment, my new apartment. And they were like, "Yeah, you can just keep it, I guess." It's like, what? Okay.
I love cheap moving companies because I do love how sketchy they are a little bit. The fact that you give them so much power, you give them all of your possessions and money
Yeah.
to some guy you don't know in some cases don't speak the same language. I don't know how it's in Canada, but in Sweden, it's typically people who don't speak Swedish or English very well.
Yeah, it's a very
Who,
easy job to pick up if you don't have strong language skills for wherever you are. So because you don't really have to know
yeah,
the language to lift things. So yeah, it's usually like a bunch of people who are from like the same country, like working together and stuff like that. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a common story.
yeah, exactly. And you just hope it goes well, but it works out.
Yeah,
We survived. I think I finally have a desk. I'm finally in my office.
nice. Um, the other thing that happened in the last little bit was there was possibly probably the best Lower Decks episode, but maybe one of the better Star Trek episodes ever aired last week.
I have not seen it.
Oh my, you're in for a treat when you do.
I have to admit something. I haven't actually watched a single episode of the new season.
Oh no. Oh, you're missing out so hard. But I
I
guess you've been
know.
busy with the move and everything.
Yeah, it's been because it's been one thing after another. Like it's been moving. It's been fixing contract shit with all of that shit as well. Moving is complicated, and also getting all the furniture I need, finishing a video. I have a secret project that I'm working on that's also being wrapped up. It's been a lot of it's been a lot of stuff. Someone's saying that the new episode is maybe the sex one. Do they have sex in Lower Decks?
Yes, there's one episode where the plot of it is that basically they're in like there's like a Starfleet like person who like is putting everybody through drills to make sure that they're all like good at their jobs. And basically they just put them in these like mini holodecks that just play out different scenarios from Star Trek's. And one of them gets the I can't remember what the name of the episode was, but the TNG episode where everybody loses their inhibitions and walk into the mess hall and everybody's just having a giant gangbang.
Oh my god.
And there was a discourse on Twitter because some Trekkies were like, "This is Star Trek used to be a smart show. Now look at this."
Look at this bullshit where they have sex.
Yeah. Despite the fact that Star Trek has always been a very silly, like a ridiculously horny show.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty good. But the really good Star Trek episode that I'm talking about is the 9th episode, the kind of penultimate episode that basically is like they juxtapose between the lower decks on the Cerritos, but also the lower decks on a Klingon bird of prey and a Vulcan science ship. So it's like what the ensigns are doing on these ships. It's pretty solid.
Sounds pretty fun.
Because yeah, it's like about like a Klingon ensign who's trying to make the captain happy so that when he kills the executive officer, he might become the next XO, and a Vulcan who has a hunch about something in her scans, and every time she's just like, "I followed my instinct, and I think this must be followed." And you're like, one more emotional outburst like that, and you will be demoted very quickly. Like, it's so good. It's so good. You'll have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm looking forward to just have like a time to consume media again.
Okay, so yeah, and then let's see. The Canary Islands exploded. The UK ran out of gasoline, I guess, and
Yeah, they ran out of gasoline and workers.
yeah,
They're still out of workers, I think.
yeah. Basically, America too. America just has no workers, and that's why their treats are not arriving on schedule, and it's going to make people very angry. But yeah, didn't like the UK say something that like because of their worker shortage that like their worker shortage, which is weird because they basically like did Brexit because they were so anti-immigrant that they wanted to get all of these like migrant workers out of the country, and now they can't find anybody to deliver their treats to them. But
Who's gonna drive the trucks? Who's gonna do all of the shit?
yeah, and then but apparently in the UK, like they're talking about like how there just might not be anything in the stores at Christmas time.
Yeah, I read a lot about. There were some people who talked about like how most stores might get stocked like after New Year's, which is just really funny, if nothing else. like Brexit continues to be the funniest sort of like self-own of all international geopolitical choices of the last decade.
Yeah, I've learned they're still at an impasse with the EU about the border with Ireland, and apparently they're also now in a dispute with France over fishing rights in the English Channel. So, with like France at one point threatening to occupy the island of Jersey. So it's been really great. Brexit, great idea. Love that for you guys. And now the U.S. is dealing with the fact that like something like almost 40% of its shipping comes in from like 2 major ports, and they just can't find enough truckers to move the stuff. So the like major ports are just like backed up to like a ridiculous degree, and they can't. The treats aren't flowing, and in America, the only way that America can have political stability is if the treats flow. Think about it. One day after Americans can't buy something on Amazon and get it within 2.5 hours.
Chaos.
Yeah, if the treats stop flowing, America will riot. That is the one thing that will cause a revolution in America.
I fully believe this. But I read someone talking about like how like people were worried about like a supply line disruption during COVID, which like wasn't really a huge issue because people consumed less, which is fine. But this driver shortage might actually cause like a major one because it's a bottleneck, right? Because a lot of the goods that keep flowing, they're still flowing. Like as long as they can't like reduce the overflow, it's just going to become worse and worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, it's like pancaking on each other because we had an entire logistics supply chain system that was designed with a principle called just-in-time delivery, which meant that every like warehouses were kept on very low volume and deliveries were made much more common because labor was cheap, so truckers and stuff like that were pretty easy to hire. But on top of that, like it was like, you know, if there was no disruptions, it was just a much like more quick and responsive system. But then it has one interruption and we're seeing like ripples coming out for ages.
Yeah.
Plus, sometimes a big boat gets stuck and Europe just doesn't get cars for a week.
So what did you say?
And sometimes a big boat gets stuck and Europe just doesn't get cars for a week.
But it is very funny when the big boat gets stuck.
Yeah, it was my favorite time.
I'm genuinely looking forward to the next time something gets stuck in the channel.
Yeah,
because it will happen.
It already did. There was a time where another ship was briefly stuck in the Suez Canal, but it got out really quickly, and I was like, oh man, it would, like, one big boat stuck, very funny. 2 big boats stuck in 1 year is hilarious.
Yeah. If only it could have gotten stuck again on the way out.
Yeah.
Because when they moved the ship out after like a month. Anyway.
Yeah, that would have been funny if they they unlodged it and then it moved and it got stuck again. That would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, apparently the supply line crisis is actually way worse than I thought it was, because I've been hearing about it like here and there. But yeah, like even Biden is having like emergency infrastructure meetings and shit to solve it. And apparently nothing is happening.
Yeah, Biden is well aware what happens when the treats don't flow. Like, that's we need to do is go. We have to obviously look back to Maoism, and everyone needs to start making cheap plastic shit in their backyards. I have a friend, like one of my closest friends here, if not my closest friend here in London. He was born in China. He spent a lot of time in China, and he's just talking about how there was a time where, due to like Mao's economic reforms, everybody was required to have like a steel smelter in their backyard.
Yeah,
and it's like, yes, Chinese that was a very Mao had very interesting economic theories. But he defeated the birds, which was his only goal. He heard that the birds worked for the bourgeoisie and defeated them.
It's all you really need to do. If you can defeat the bourgeoisie decadence out of birds, and not having a steel mill in your backyard, then the revolution will be complete.
Mm-hmm.
Just dunking on Mao.
Listen, Mao's been dead for a while. It's fine.
He can take it.
Yeah.
If anyone can take the dunk, it's the People's Republic of China.
Yeah, let's say. Here's the thing about Mao. 2,000 years from now, people are going to know who Mao was, and no one's going to know who I was. So, if anything, he wins. So I'm allowed.
That's fair. That is fair. Are people not going to remember the gestures of YouTube?
I mean, they might remember YouTube in general, but listen, if I make it to the history book, something went drastically wrong. That's all I gotta say.
Listen, you're not wrong.
Yeah. Reminds me, I made a plan to troll the people, the Caleb Mopen Peter Coffin crowd by making a Patreon account with the name of the CIA and pledging to all of the bread tubers with at the level where I can get in the credits.
Yes. I'm sure that's been happening. The fact that no one has actually, I'm not sure it has happened because I feel like people out there, I assume you come up with some really funny names for people to put in the credits. People will make them specifically to troll specific YouTubers.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm surprised no one has said that. I'm sure I have 3 George Soroses in my credits.
I got a Karl Marx. I got Karl Marx money.
Oh shit! You got Karl Marx?
Yeah.
I don't have. I don't have Karl Marx. I think I maybe have. I think I had Bismarck for a short amount of time.
Someone just said, "What happened to Peter Coffin?" Listen, if I was the psychiatrist who could figure that out, I would have the Nobel Prize in social science. I think. I don't know what happened to him.
I don't know either. I do feel a little bit. We're not gonna go into dunking, bullying, even though it might be a little potentially justified. But I do have a little bit of conflicted feelings about Peter Coffin because they were one of the first people who shared my videos back when I had less than 1,000 subscribers, and it really gave me a bit of an audience. And treated me fairly decently until such time I apparently became part of this. Yeah, until I apparently became part of the CIA. And I don't know which video I did that tipped me over the scale from good side to.
No, it's just that Peter
being an imperialist.
It's Peter that changed, not you. Peter started hanging out with Nazbols and basically was now convinced that everybody who is doing anything related to social justice movements is now part of the conspiracy. It's really ugly. Basically, Peter Coffin's pulling a Glenn Greenwaldification. He's going Greenwaldifying.
Oh god, that's so much worse than jokerifying.
Yeah. Basically, the drill tweets, turning into a turning into a corn cob. There you go.
Yeah.
Call it corn cobbing, where they get owned and then they say, I'm not owned, and then just get absolutely more and more ridiculous as they keep doubling down over on. Yeah, Red. I called it that at the end of 2020 that red browning was going to be a real issue in 2021, and I was not proven wrong.
Yeah, you.
Sorry, you kind of stalled there for the last little bit.
Oh no, I just said that you definitely called it.
Yeah.
Speaking of red browning, that is not an issue in Sweden because we. Speaking of drama internationally, if I may so bold, I tweeted about this shortly, but it is a very funny story that we recently had a big party leader debate where it's 8 different people have a massive battle royale debate It's a nightmare scenario. But they use the term like blue-brown to sort of reference the sort of like traditional cooperation of like far-right people and conservatives, which is far more common, I feel like, than red-browning, right?
Yeah.
So for the last like week or so, Sweden has been embroiled in a big debate about like whether or not Nazis are left-wing or not, or like who are the real Nazis. And that debate could have sparked could have gone a long way, because the Nazi party leader basically said this like, hey, we're not the Nazis, the left are the real Nazis. And then like 12 hours later, in the same like news cycle, one of the like, top employees of the Nazi party also got outed as like an active participatory Nazi.
Fun.
That's been like going on for a long time in Swedish politics.
Yeah.
Speaking of weird political coalitions.
Someone just said Strasser Brother video and it's on my list. It's been one I want to make for a while. So.
That's a good video topic, actually.
And I have it on pretty good authority that there's a pretty cool Nazbol video in early production from a very high-end YouTuber. So you'll get your content.
Oh.
It's one of the biggest things that's going on in leftist discourse that's not having videos made about it. But yeah, I think it's just a sort of like toxic conversation piece, right? Because whenever you talk about it, it feels like people just start fighting. People don't like to fight. Yeah. We do occasionally answer questions on this stream. So I've got some questions for you. Lots of people have had questions. People are dying to know many things.
Uh-huh.
The first one we got here comes from Pim Korimans, who also goes by the nom du guerre of Cybercat.
Mm-hmm.
If you had access to holodeck technology and you could go back to any event in history, which event would it be? So if you wanted to go back in time to a place or time in history with the holodeck, what would you go to see?
Yeah. The fact that it's a holodeck and not time travel is throwing me off a little bit, because like I can't change anything. I would just have to be there to observe. I don't know.
What about that Sexology Institute in Berlin during the Weimar Republic? I bet some fun shit went down there.
Yeah, that's probably the best answer, actually, for me.
If we're going to go in our research areas, and I bet I could, I definitely think that seeing New York on 9/11 would be quite a sight to see if I knew that I wasn't going to be in danger.
Yeah.
The side question is, what person would you want to meet? And I mean, that's a no-brainer for you, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
You want to meet Sex Daddy.
I want to meet Sex Chad, Ultra Daddy, Magnus Hirschfeld.
Yeah.
I guess maybe would you want to meet George Bush?
No, I definitely
like
think I'd go with Emma Goldman. I like her too much.
That's fair.
I would like my you know that scene where Data's playing poker with like Stephen Hawking and like Einstein and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that my poker table would have Emma Goldman at it. She'd be pretty fun to play cards with, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Except we'd all be playing Uno. So I just want like an old cranky Russian anarchist to show the reverse card and like pick up for and stuff. That's my Zoomer humor right there. Zoomers love Uno.
I don't know why. Uno is a timeless game.
Yeah. It's just weird that like Uno is like making a comeback. To the point where there was a pizza chain in Canada that was giving free copies of Uno away if you bought a pizza. That was like a promotion for a little bit.
All right. I mean, I don't get it, but I support it.
Canada's a weird country. I'm learning this more and more. The more I learn about like Canada, Like every time I show Kelly stuff from Canada from before NAFTA, so before we like had our culture severely Americanized, our culture was very weird. Our media was very strange. Okay, the next one we got here is from Caleb C. and says, have you ever heard of the Hamburg Massacre? It was basically the South Carolina equivalent to the white supremacist takeover of North Carolina government in the 1870s. Wait, Hamburg, South Carolina? I haven't heard of this. Is it also like a Reconstruction era thing? Because yeah, the political instability in like the immediate post-Civil War era is very interesting, and a lot of wacky stuff was going on. Lithuanian, not Russian. Excuse me. She was born in a place that was technically part of the Russian Empire at the time when she was born, and is today Polish. Or yeah, so.
Listen, that specific area of land has like traded places between these various people. So saying Russian is probably not wrong, because historically most of that area has been Russia.
Yeah. She spent her childhood split between the Russian Empire and the Bismarckian German Empire. So.
Good lord.
Yeah. Because there was this thing that happened in the late 19th century that made the Russian Empire not the safest place to be Jewish, so she went to Germany for a while, and then went back to Russia. They're like, we promise to not pogrom you this time. Yeah.
Fuck.
Okay. The next question I got here is from Gad Yariv, who asks, why did you stop uploading content to Tristan Won't Shut Up? And are you planning to make more? The content there is usually slightly less depressing than Step Back and more diverse. Fair. I'm not against it. Okay, so the reason why I sort of... Yeah, I did. I mean, I didn't intentionally stop, but I basically ran out of... I ran into a sort of rut with it. So here's the thing. Two things simultaneously happened. I realized that I was getting way more bang for my buck, where instead of making Tristan Won't Shut Up videos, I just made more Step Back videos. And then I also learned very quickly that the Step Back audience doesn't particularly care if I talk about history or not. And so I started, I don't know if you can tell, but like last summer, I started like branching out into more topics. And that seemed to work really well. So most of the stuff that I would talk about on such a channel, I can now just talk about on Step Back without having to worry about it. And then I can have, like, it's kind of good, if at all possible, to keep your content on as few channels as possible, just because you have to build an audience all over again. So I did it that way. I do have some plans to use Tristan Won't Shut Up for like some media stuff, but then I quickly also realized that I don't know anything about how media works. I'm not like a media guy, so I don't know what I'll have to say. But I definitely will probably make something for that channel, because there's going to be something that I want to make that has a different sort of audience in mind than the Step Back audience. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
And a lot of my fun, like, doing history research videos has been filled in with doing the new podcast. And people seem to like that because it's got a specific audience. Hopefully that all fits.
I think so.
Yeah. Oh boy. And everybody wants to... Oh, I also got... I had another visit from Raid Shadow Legends. That was the thing that came up.
Oh, really? How are their emails? Because they haven't contacted me.
They're like, hey, this is blank from the people who make Raid Shadow Legends, the famous game that everybody's talking about. Do you want to get like money to talk about our game on your thing? And then I just said, no, because of your monetization practice is unethical. Bye. And then that was it. Okay. This is a question from Razel. What's y'all's take on anarchist/libertarian socialist parties running in bourgeois elections? there's an anarchist party. I feel like that is fairly antithetical to what anarchism stands for. Marxist-Leninists, I mean, it makes sense for them. That they believe that a political party should basically run all of society with an iron fist. But as like an anarchist, the idea of running a political party sounds very counterintuitive. Some like supporting electoralism for the purposes of damage control is, yeah, that's a thing. That's a tactic that I think is appropriate. But yeah, I don't think an anarchist party is a good idea, no.
I don't know enough.
Yeah, there you go.
I realized I'll be quiet, like, with the last couple of questions, but I don't know.
It's fair.
Like, the question is very, like, specifically niched in a way that I'm not, like, informed enough about.
Yeah, there's specifically questions about my channel and then about anarchist stuff. All right. Let's see what we got next. I've noticed that there's no discussion about why the U.S. failed to transform Afghanistan to a stable, reliable ally like it did with Japan and Germany post-World War II. I suspect it has something with the rise of neoliberalism, despite your objection to imperialism. What do you think is the reason American empire can't manage to turn people they invade into their side anymore?
Because the nature of I feel like the nature of the conflicts are very different. Like the reason why, like the reason why Japan became the way it was is because it was like it was very much in the interest of like most people in Japan, right? To like, yeah, war was a mistake. We're just gonna like restructure our companies and try to industrialize as quick as possible using allied money and just become rich, which happened. Like that is a big thing that happened. But what happened? But a big part of that is also like the realization that the conflict, which is a very like international and sort of expansionistic conflict, failed and is now over. Whereas the conflict in Afghanistan, for a lot of people who were involved in that conflict, like when the Taliban fell and when like the Islamic, what was it called, like the Islamic imamate of Afghanistan fell, the conflict wasn't over. For a lot of people, for a lot of people, the conflict was like ongoing, and it has been ongoing until in August. Because it's and it wasn't really in the interests of people there to sort of put down their arms and focus on like a nation building.
Yeah.
Like and it's definitely, and it's not like the Western world had given them any incentives of doing that either. Like I'm thinking about like Germany and Japan. Like there were incentives to sort of like not be hostile to occupation, and instead of like and instead going into like I'm just gonna like make a company now and like go to work. Like there were like heavy incentives to do that, whereas the occupation of Afghanistan was very much like don't get in our way or we shoot you. Like there wasn't really any actual nation building in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
It was all like focused on sort of ending the conflict that couldn't really end because it's not that kind of conflict.
Yeah, I think that like one thing to point out is that the immediate post-World War II moment, the United States was trying to project the values of the liberal capitalist system, because a lot of their like rebuilding of the countries after World War II was more done in the name of anti-communism than it was like the Marshall Plan was more or less bribing Western Europe to not go communist, please.
Yeah, and
like they're actually like I haven't seen one for Afghanistan, but I have seen one for Iraq, and it was a book called Cultures of War, which is a book by John Dower that I read for my comps. that does compare the way that the American mind approached the invasion and occupation of Japan and Iraq, and that they did have fundamentally different interests in their rebuilding process that are sort of based on the ideology, economic ideology of America in two different periods of its history. Like the rebuilding of Japan was in a period where the sort of Rooseveltian era, like New Deal thinking was the way that they thought things worked, so that when they rebuilt Japan, they rebuilt it with the idea of strong unions and industrialized labor and like a high emphasis on like a kind of a bunch of social democratic programs as their way to rebuild. Like, yeah. I mean, shit, Japan's constitution was one of the first constitutions to enshrine the rights of women in it because of their, like, it was more progressive than America when they basically made it. Now, Iraq was done during a neoconservative sort of idea, where the idea was that essentially Iraq was going to be invaded and occupied and was essentially going to be looted by big American companies for its resources. And also they just had much less interest in the rebuilding whatsoever. Like, I remember in this book reading that the person who was in charge of rebuilding Iraq was reading a book on Iraqi history while on the flight to Baghdad. So, like, it was very much, they were much less interested in rebuilding Iraq. They were much more interested in securing its resources for U.S. corporations. And yeah, like the idea of a civil society, very weak, because under the new neoliberal, neoconservative ideology, like, those kinds, like, privatizing everything is the better option. And you can see by how well those two different countries worked out which was a better system, because Japan, for all of its flaws, is a social democracy with some of the most powerful labor in, or at least a pretty powerful labor sector still, and has a pretty strong civil society, while Iraq is, struggling to basically recover from the American occupation. I just remembered this, like, dug up the memory. Like, I just went back into the library in my brain and remembered, like, dusted off an old tome. Like, I remember this one.
That's good. You have a lot more, like, encyclopedic knowledge than I do.
This is the. If it was about, it's also just my area of expertise. I remember Cultures of War just being a very interesting book, because it's also talking about how. Just check. I also have notes about everything, so I was looking it up while you were giving your explanation. But yes. Cultures of War, kind of shows like how Japan and the Pearl Harbor and 9/11 have a lot of like similarities in the way that like Americans reacted and how they sort of doubled down on the people and everything like that. It was good. There was a lot more idealism in the rebuilding of Japan than there was in Iraq. And I think it's mostly from a straight geopolitical thing. I think it was. They had more to prove because they did not want to deal with what was going on in Korea in Japan.
Yeah.
And they were trying to stop communism. Because there was a very strong communist movement in early post-war Japan. Now, Matt Lipton left a super chat. Thank you. For $5 Canadian. Thoughts on Trudeau lumping far left and far right together? Think he's going to target left-wing activist groups critical of his government? ? The answer is yes, because he's already done that. And
yeah, I was about to say, like, that's already happening, surely.
Yes. The right attacks the left, and the centrists, they say that the left and right are both bad, and then attack the left. So that's just on brand, I think. That's about it. Would going back to 9/11 and removing George Bush do more harm than good? Yeah, can you imagine President Dick Cheney having absolutely no control?
Oh my god. Well, in that case, we would be living in the Fallout timeline.
Yeah.
How is that? Wait, does that mean George Bush is the good option here? Is that the good timeline?
George Bush was not exactly a competent leader. Like the thing about George Bush is that he was very convincible. So his opinion in any like foreign policy situation was essentially the opinion of the last person he talked to, and everyone knew that. So he was very much at the center of a bunch of different interests that were trying to sway him one way or the other. But for the most part, he was just an idiot who didn't understand what was going on.
Yeah.
Which
So
is
we
great
are-
for a
we're-
empire that runs the world.
So we are in the incompetent timeline rather than the good one,
That's
which is better than the bad one.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
the secret. There's way more stupid leaders than there are evil leaders.
That makes a lot of sense.
We basically live on the Pakled planet. That's my new theory.
On the what planet?
Like, you know how people were saying the whole TNG Star Trek thing, that like our society is like the Ferengi of today. I think that we're more like the Paklids.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. 100%. Oh, God, that's depressing.
All right. The next question comes from Pim again. My apologies if this question is too personal, but considering that you and your wife are going to be parents soon, how do you plan to introduce the internet to your children? Are you going to lock stuff out, keep it from them till a certain age? I am curious to know the answer, since this is something I've often given a lot of thought to in the small chance I might have offspring of my own. Ooh. Do you have thoughts?
I'm just thinking about the fact that like I live on the internet. I have basically given up on privacy altogether, but I'm also and I'm fine with it. As as I am, I don't think I need privacy that much. Like as a public person, but I am also thinking about the fact that like most people who do the science behind Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that like refuse to let their kids like have accounts on them. And I think that's telling something.
Yeah.
I think if I had a kid, I would probably be extraordinarily. No, I'm not gonna tell you how to parent, obviously. This is not advice I'm giving you.
Yeah.
But I think I'd probably just avoid until the last possible moment. Like as late as I could, I would explain that it's like a thing that exists and that a lot of people do use. And it's very important for work, but also something that's like extraordinarily bad.
Yeah.
And extraordinarily dangerous on many, many levels.
Mm-hmm. I've luckily spent some time working at a civil liberties organization, and I was, friendly with the person who was in charge of like technology and privacy at that organization. And she's described a lot of stuff about how to explain things to kids. And I think that before they make a social media account, they have to be old enough to appreciate that information about you is being collected as a way for them to make money, and that can be used in ways that are that might not be obvious, but could have consequences further on in life. But my current plan is that we're not putting any pictures of our kid on social media. I'm not going to disclose my kid's name to my audience because for safety reasons, but also for privacy reasons. And he's the only any pictures we take of him are going to be put on a private album that's just shared with family. Because he is too young to consent to having his stuff put up on the internet. When he's about maybe 13, 14, or at an age where it's 13, 14, or the age where he is mad because everybody else has something and he doesn't, then we can have the conversation about that stuff. But yeah, it is something that's on my mind. because I do want to make sure that like until they're old enough to consent to putting their data on the internet, I want to avoid it as much as I can. And yeah, introducing it, because like the way that our parents introduced us to the internet was really stupid. Like I remembered like don't use your real name, and like don't you remember like some of like the early internet safety stuff that was just like not based in reality on anything?
Yeah, never use your real name. Never reveal your age or gender. And obviously never talk to strangers, obviously. What else? I think I just missed some of the early internet advice because I was fairly tech savvy as a kid. And my parents let me be on the computer as much as possible. So I guess like I'm a cautionary tale.
Yeah, so my advice is going to be more about like make sure that like anything that you put on the internet is something that you're okay with being there forever, and even if it's not public, could be made public if stuff happens. And so to be careful about what you put out there.
Yeah.
And also to be aware of like I'm hoping, because like one of the things that I'm planning on doing for my kid is raising them in an atmosphere where there's as little advertising as possible. Like we got YouTube Premium so that even when he's watching YouTube videos, there's not going to be ads on it.
Smart.
And like most streaming services don't have ads on them anymore, so I want him to like have as few ads as possible, because when you get old enough, then you'll be able to point out when they are ads and realize this kind of stuff. So that's most of the stuff. Like I definitely think it's going to be a process, because kids get started on watching shit on the internet when they're like babies now. So you have to like introduce bits of it to them as they get older. And as I said, most of the the ages and stuff when I'm going to work that out is more based on when they're going to complain that everybody else is on something and they're not.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably a good line to have.
Because like I was like wondering like what age do you get a kid a cell phone these days? Because I got one in high school, and the answer is when they're complaining that everybody else has one and they don't.
Yeah.
That's my take.
The fact that like people get into first grade with a cell phone is terrifying to me. What are you doing on that? Like, I know I sound like an extraordinary, like, strong boomer, but like what do you do?
Yeah, what does a 6-year-old need with a phone? I'm guessing that it's like I don't even know when kids get cell phones these days. Also, my kid is part of Generation Alpha, and I don't know anything about what that generation's going to be like. I did see that there's a potential that they're going to end up being called Generation C, because the Alpha kids are the ones that are going to be the most affected by COVID, where COVID happened during a formative time in their life.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, yeah. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. But that's sort of the way I'm thinking. I luckily probably have a few years before I have to worry about teaching data security to my kid. But yeah.
Yeah.
If there's any Zoomers in the chat, like people who are like teenagers or something like that, who can tell me when they got their first cell phone, I'd be very curious. Because I think I must have been at least 14 when I got my first cell phone. Yeah. And even then it was that would have been like a 2002 or 2003 cell phone, which meant that it could make phone calls and text, and you were charged for every text. So
see that this is where I'm reminded that I'm slightly younger than you, because mine could also play MP3 files.
Oh, fancy! No, I had an iPod.
Know.
I had an iPod and a phone. I had a Generation 1 iPod. It broke constantly.
Well, I had to get an iPod Mini when I started high school, because my phone could only hold so many songs. It could only hold like I'm not even kidding. I think it could hold like 30 or 50 songs in total.
Mm-hmm.
God.
Teenager does seem like 13 does seem like an age that might be around the time a phone makes sense.
Yeah.
Because that's when the age they're starting to go out and you don't know where they are and you just want them to call to be able to get home.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
When they actually need one, like when teens talk to each other and also need to contact you on a distance.
Yeah, 13 is like about the age where you're like you could drop your kid off at the mall and they can go have a day and you're not going to be worried about what they're going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm going to have to reevaluate all of these things whenever I have a kid. I'm speaking of this as someone who does not have a kid and is not on the way to have a kid.
Yeah, I'm what's it called? I'm working on it's a few. We thought it was going to be January, and now there might be some stuff that might mean it will be late December. I'm hoping that we can get to January, but yeah, it's coming. It's coming soon.
Yeah.
What seems to be happening though is that it's going to be my kid's birthday is unfortunately going to be very close to New Year's, one way or the other. So we'll see what that's like. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing.
I think if it's it depends. If it's right in the beginning of the year, I think it's a good thing. Because then they're gonna be like slightly older than everyone else. If it's right at the end, like if it's December 30th or something like that, then they're gonna be younger than everyone else, and they're like in their circle.
Yeah. So we're gonna have to hold off. Just wait until New Year's. That's all the plan. I think the general idea is that it's probably gonna be somewhere around January 6th. Like either that or a day or two after that.
Mm.
Anyways, that's a lot. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. This is one from Orange Man, the Dutch name that man that's not Dutch. Sorry, man with two A's. What would your mirror universe selves be? So what is Mia in the mirror universe like?
Mia in the mirror universe is, I guess at this point, like an officer in the military, and yeah, the mirror universe. Okay, there are two different Mia Mulder mirror universes, but one is the evil one because it has to be properly evil, and that is that the evil one is has not transitioned, is an officer in the military, and it's probably not even an officer in the Swedish military. It's probably joined some European defense leagues shit, something stupid like that. It's probably pretty racist, I think. Yeah, that's who it is. It has very short hair.
Hmm. Okay.
That's Mirror Universe.
An officer in the new Swedish Empire. Does Mirror Mia have a goatee?
Oh, for sure. 100%.
That's a good one. That was a pretty good answer.
How about you?
Okay, so my guess, so there's a story about my dad that sort of dovetails into what I think my mirror universe story would be, which is that there was a time when my dad was very, not that he's not successful in his career now. Well, he's almost retired, so it's different now. But there was a time where he was he dreamed a little bigger than he does today. And there was a time where he turned down a job to work at Johnson Space Center in Texas. And if he had done that, Tristan would have been, because I think I was a baby at the time, but Tristan would have grown up in Texas, in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that would be Mirror Universe Tristan, the Tristan that grew up in Houston. And I think that he's a libertarian YouTuber who, though has a bunch of dumb political opinions, mostly channels them through being mad about kids' TV shows having women in them today. So basically, I would be like the Quartering.
Oh no, Tristan!
Yes, That's Mirror Tristan. That's evil Tristan.
Yeah. Good lord. Someone did also point out that because it has to be evil, right?
Yeah, the
It
Mirror
has to
Universe
be
is evil. Yeah.
God.
Or just where your life goes on a very different trajectory because of one thing changing. The other option could be that I grew up in America and become like a very pro business person and like worships Elon Musk. So, because I could see myself, if I have had some different experiences in my life, really buying into Elon Musk shit. So that's also Mirror Tristan lives in Texas, is a libertarian, complains about not being horny about She-Ra on the, or no, complaining that the that the My Little Ponies aren't as sexy as they were in the old show, and really likes Elon Musk.
Oh my god, this is so cursed.
This is cursed.
This does remind me of someone who also pointed out in the chat that like another potential Mia Mulder mirror is that I would just become Blair White.
Oh, that's dark.
That's just that.
Or you just become the prefect, like you just become Kira in the Mirror Universe. That's the fun evil version of yourself.
The fun evil version. Yeah, I can see it.
For the record, Nana Visitor obviously was having way more fun playing Mirror Kira than real Kira.
Oh, for sure.
Every time Kira, there's like several times where Kira gets to play like a straight up evil character, and you can always tell that she's having way more fun.
Yeah.
Mirror Tristan
there's joy in those episodes.
Yeah. Mirror Tristan makes extremely detailed posts about World War II on Reddit. Oh yeah, for sure. Mirror Tristan would be involved with every kind of gate. Every media gate would be involved with every single one of them. Comics gate, RPG gate, gamer gate, all of them. You name a gate and he's on it.
Are you the person, mirror you, would you be the person who like makes a 7-hour stream about like Jenny Nicholson's take on the Joker?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Has an unreasonably high hatred of Jenny Nicholson, and just like makes just absolute like, I don't know, like how Thunderfoot is just obsessed with hating Anita Sarkeesian.
Oh my god, this is so horrifying.
Yeah. Okay.
Good question.
Very good question.
Horror thinking.
Yeah, that was very cursed. Thank you. Next question is, Tristan, explain the math as to how a party can get a certain percentage of the vote in Canada but only get so many seats. Okay. Canada doesn't run a popular election. They run like 338 little elections. And the person who goes to Parliament is the person who wins one of those 338 little elections. So the problem is that in Canada there are places like the West where the Conservatives win their little elections by 30-40%, while there's places in inner cities where the NDP win by 30-40%. And then the Liberals always just win by 3% everywhere. And that's how they have the most seats but got fewer votes than the Conservatives. It's as easy as that. Democracy. Don't you love democracy?
I love democracy. I love the Republic.
Yeah. There's been some serious talk. Everyone I talk to is reasonably convinced that when Queen Elizabeth dies, if she doesn't become an immortal who has fed the souls of 10,000 people every day to maintain the beacon that allows us to do faster than light travel, if Queen Elizabeth dies, that Canada will play around with the idea of dumping the Republic.
Oh, for sure. Once the Queen dies, the monarchy is dead.
Yeah. Mirror Jenny Nicholson is a not your shield anti-feminist. Oh no.
Christ.
Jenny Nicholson's a national treasure.
I don't know why people hate her so much.
I don't know.
Why are a specific subsection of weird YouTube just fucking hate Jenny Nicholson for no reason?
I don't know.
Like,
One of my biggest regrets is that in 2018 I was at a dinner with her, and I did not know about her channel at the time, and went through the whole supper without like really talking to her that much, and just totally blown any chance to have a conversation. So that's fun. Okay. If I remember correctly, she and Natalie were very invested in a cheese plate, so I probably wouldn't have gotten a word in anyway. Okay.
It's good cheese.
Yeah. I have seen... Okay, this is from Orange Man, again. I have seen that since January 6th, and now especially with Afghanistan and General Milley, there's been a genuine growing rift between the Republicans and the U.S. generalship, though of course remaining pro-soldier. How will this affect the military's relationship with the government in the long run, especially if a Republican returns as president in 2024?
Could you send me that just so I don't miss any topics?
Sure. Essentially what it is that there's a growing rift between the how Republicans talk about foreign policy and what the like generals of the US military want.
Mm-hmm.
Like the I think the first rift was when Trump asked the generals to do a coup and they said no.
Yeah.
Which apparently really happened.
I think, yeah. I don't think that that's going to change too much, because like the military in the U.S. seems at least to like respect the like the civil authority over the military, right? And but also like respect sort of like the institution that it's like supposed to represent, not just like the political like leaders of that institution.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I'm U.S., but I remember that's something that like when I tried to join the military and when I did my cadet thing, that was like a huge thing that they really drill into you, that it doesn't really matter who's in charge. Like you're supposed to like follow orders, but also you're supposed to sort of like follow the ideals of whatever of the institution that you're following. So like if a whack job gets in charge, you should still sort of like stand against that, like on principle. Like there's something like above the political that the military is supposed to be. Probably because like there's a lot of people who are into military history who knows that when that doesn't happen, it's usually a lot of civil wars and coups and blood.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe the U.S. could be fine with this. Like the Republicans are still obviously going to like to want to play the military a lot, but I like to think that the I can't believe I'm rooting for the military against the Republicans here, but I like to think that the military, it has like it has more integrity than the Republicans do.
Yeah. I think that especially the like high generalship of the military do take that role very seriously. I mean, if you think about it, if there's anybody who has put a lot of thought about like the relationship of the military to the country, it's probably like generals in the military.
Yeah, for sure.
But I do think that like if there's like a prediction about how this will result, like I don't think the Republican relationship with the military will change that much. Like the rank and file of the military is still overwhelmingly Republican, although not as overwhelmingly Republican as people think they are. But like the military, like the brass are very like they seem to take being not political very seriously. That might change in the future. Like if you got the wrong sort of general promoted, then yeah, I could see some like shit. But like that is one of the few strong institutions that kind of kept the U.S. Going during Trump's presidency. Yeah. It was probably one of the few institutions that actually like stopped a full-on dictatorship from happening. So.
That's a bleak thought.
That's a bleak thought because, yeah, these are very much instruments of empire, and that's a real problem. But this is the big thing to talk about, because if America is going to have like what's like a big like capital C collapse, it's probably going to do with the relationship between the government and the military, because a lot of times when there are like coups and government collapses. It's when that relationship, crosses over in some way. And sometimes it's like actually like part of the country. Like if I remember correctly, like in Turkey and in Egypt, the head of the military actually like sees themselves as sort of like a stopgap in case the government goes too far, and they're supposed to step in and like reset things if things get out of hand.
Yeah.
Which is not the healthy, like is probably not a healthy relationship, but like that relationship though does seem to be like part of it. And I'm happy that the generalship of the US military is at least concerned about their political stance. I think what it just means though in the future is that the Democrats are going to become much more pro-military, which they already have been doing ever since Trump started running afoul of the generalship. The Democrats are a lot more pro-military than they were like a couple election cycles ago, and the Republicans are going to try to spin racist anti-interventionism. Like they're gonna be more being like we need to militarize our border and not invade countries, which I'm not happy with. We're already seeing that. Like there's a lot of the alt-right's talking points are kind of like that.
Yeah.
Because like the neoconservative ideology has left the Republican Party and is establishing itself in the Democratic Party, and Trump is basically responsible for that. Because Trump basically destroyed the Republican Party. Almost everybody who got elected during the Trump era was like a loyalist to him specifically, and then he lost the election in a pretty bad way. So now the party doesn't really have anything, and without the neocons, the Republican Party doesn't have a whole lot to move forward with, and that's why they're constantly trying new things. Like, is critical race theory a thing? Can we make that work? Is anti-woke a thing? Can we do that one? So yeah, that's the next cursed phase of American politics, probably.
Probably, and it's just basically a continuation of where we've already been for like a while.
That's why if anything, okay, one of the more interesting things to see is what the 2024 primaries for the Republicans will be like. Because it'll be. I think that if Donald Trump doesn't run, which, like, I don't know if he will or not, he definitely thinks he is, but who knows? If he doesn't run, it's going to be like 1 million people vying for what the future of the Republican Party will be, and I think it's going to be very competitive and very messy. Like, I don't think there's going to be a clear front runner. I think there's going to be a lot of different interest groups in the Republican Party all vying for what's going to be the next thing. Because you got that alt-right, you've got the neocons, you got people like Jeb Bush who kind of represent this idea that the Republicans need to be more inclusive but still keep their conservative roots. You got like Marco Rubio, who's essentially like, the Gusano coalition. You even got like Ted Cruz, and then usually the weapons manufacturers push a person. Last time it was Lindsey Graham. Who knows what'll be next?
You're right. Yeah.
So it'll be a very. I feel like the next Republican primaries will be very intense, and people will, and also just like QAnon people and everything like that are now a constituency. So it's going to be the Republican primaries are going to be absolutely wild. I think that the Republicans are going to be a lot more divided than they used to be.
Yeah, I think definitely that's true. I saw something about talking about like how. Yeah, I think that there's not really going to be much of a battle, like Republicans. Like as you sort of mentioned, it's more going to be like an infighting thing between Republicans rather than externally.
Yeah.
But I mean, from what I've heard, like a lot of people are still fucking Trump supporters.
Yeah, because they're also going to deal with the fact that the party won't want to push Trump. Like, they won't want Trump to be the leader because he lost the last election, and there's still a lot of people who really don't like Trump.
Yeah.
That, like, if Trump won, he would almost guarantee a re-election for the Democrats. But also, the Republican base really likes Trump.
Yeah.
And the leadership doesn't know how to thread that needle of, like, Trump can't be leadership, but Trump sort of is the most popular person amongst the Republican base. And I don't know where they go from there.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It's terrifying because, as some people are saying, like, Trump is going to run unopposed, with like in the primary of the Republicans.
Yeah, if he runs, I don't know if anyone would run against him.
Yeah, like,
can Trump start his own party? I feel like he'd be like Teddy Roosevelt in that sense, and I would not be surprised if he did something like that, honestly.
Yeah, and the thing is, he might actually be like moderately successful. Like, he wouldn't win, obviously, but he would be moderately successful in destroying the Republican Party.
Yeah, it'd be kind of like the 1912 election, which is when Teddy Roosevelt really hated Howard Taft and made his own political party called the Bull Moose Party to oppose the Republicans. And basically all of the progressive Republicans left the Republican Party and joined the Democratic Party by the next election. And the Republicans sort of became the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
Which if Trump pulled people off of the Republican Party, I don't think they would go to the Democrats, but I don't know where they'd go.
I'm so looking forward to the next election.
Yeah, 2024 is going to be an absolute shit show. Plus, also, Joe Biden's support is already at 38%, and we're not even a year into his presidency. So
I know, like, the U.S. is falling. The U.S. is fucking falling apart.
Yeah, the U.S. is like, there's a lot of things in America that, especially with this supply chain crisis, like, there's a lot of shit in America that I don't. Somebody asked in one of my questions here if I think there's going to be an American Civil War, and I don't think there's going to be an American Civil War, but there's definitely going to be a lot of compounding political crises in the next few years.
Mm.
All right. This is a question about queer content in media. So when people try to talk about adding queer content to media, I see, but they need to sell to China a lot as a counter argument. While it's true that China is a big market, isn't this just scapegoating the reluctance for companies to add representation?
Sorry, what did you say?
So this is like a question about like how like when people try to criticize big media companies for not having a lot of queer representation in their films and shows, they bring up that they need to sell it to Chinese markets where China bans that kind of content from showing up. And it's like, yeah, but isn't this just scapegoating the Chinese to cover for the fact that these people don't want to add representation for other reasons?
Mm.
And I would say maybe, but I do think that if queer representation meant that they would make 1 cent more than if they didn't include queer representation, they would do it instantly.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. It's all about money.
Yeah, like a pride flag or a rainbow flag being put on a Twitter avatar on June 1st. If it's a thing that you could do to make more money for your brand, they'll do it.
Yeah.
Hence why their queer representation is having a blurry couple kiss in the background so they can easily edit it out for the Chinese cuts.
I mean, they don't just cut it out. They cut it out for like basically anywhere outside of like the U.S. and half of Europe.
Mm-hmm.
It's not fun.
Wasn't there that thing about China supposedly banning LGBT content a myth, or are we talking about a different thing here? It's not so much that they have a strict ban on LGBT content, it's that China has a like the way that movies specifically work in China is that they have a cultural ministry that only allows a certain number of foreign films per year to to show in Chinese theaters, and so that is like they will try to vet things that they think are going to be the safest things for the Chinese audience, and so that's why they would, if you add anything like that, they try to eliminate anything potentially risky, so that it will get past that body specifically.
Yeah.
But I do think that they're also doing it to prevent a backlash in America and in other places too, because yeah, queer content, you can't show that in Saudi Arabia, you can't show that in, I mean, shit, you probably can't even show that in Poland now, or Russia, so.
Yeah. You know, there is a big, I mean, you know, you can't even show that like in, if we're being honest, you can't even show it in the US. Like, imagine a Marvel movie with like a gay lead. Like, it's not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of the fact that like people would be angry about it, and like even though it's not like you know, technically illegal, it's still very much seen as like a cultural taboo. So.
Yeah, and keep in mind that these mega corporations with these huge budget films want to make the least offensive thing possible.
Yeah. They want to sell to literally as many people as they can.
Because they're not artists trying to push the envelope, they're cowards that want to make money. I'm not defending this action. I think it's cowardly and shitty that that the only and another sign that maybe having a media ecosystem that's entirely focused on the making of money is not the best for art specifically.
Maybe it's bad to give that much power to the individual corporation.
Yeah. Maybe one company shouldn't make every movie. Maybe.
Maybe
like
more people should be able to make movies than the 4 people who run Marvel or Disney, I guess. No.
Yeah, maybe one day we can just have a non-Marvel movie, like just one as a treat.
That's a treat, yeah.
But instead, what's the next one we're gonna see? There's Eternals. I don't know anything about that one. I have lost all energy for these things.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just waiting for Worm posting. I'm gonna like, what's it called? We are 8 days from when Canada posts Worm, and I'm going to watch it and I'm going to post about it. And you've seen it already, so do they post Worm?
In the Worm movie?
In the Worm movie, how much Worm is there?
There is a little worm. There is a little bit of worm.
Excellent.
I could have done. I'll be honest. I could have done with more worm.
Yeah, I imagine that they were going to be coy with the worm.
Yeah, they're a little coy with the worm, but they do post worm, and it does feel momentous. It could have been more momentous, but it's a pretty decent worm.
Mm-hmm. Can I say how profoundly weird it is to see things like Entertainment Weekly having a Dune cover, and you're like, no, this is my weird thing. This is my weird niche thing that nobody knows about.
You can't post about Dune.
You can't put A-list actors as Dune people.
I do, like, non-ironically, I do seriously think that Dune would thrive in the format of, like, a low-budget sci-fi TV show. Like, in the vein of, like, the original Star Trek or Stargate.
I was really hoping that Dune would be really good at, like, they keep trying to make movies, and I'm like, Dune would be better if it got, like, the Game of Thrones treatment. Like, a Game of Thrones type show for Dune would be really good.
It definitely, it really would. You can like dig into the characters a lot more. That's actually something. I'm not gonna spoil the movie, but I did have some issues with the movie regarding depth. But still a good movie.
Yeah, if I see the movie and I know what's going on and understand what people are talking about, I feel like it's failed as a Dune movie. If it introduces the characters with an explanation about who they are and what's going on, it won't feel right.
That's true. You
have-
do need to be perpetually a little bit confused.
Yeah. You have to read Dune constantly thinking that you've missed a part of the book that explains the thing that's going on. And when you're finished, you have to answer like, did you read the book? Yes. What's the book about? I don't know. Did you like it? I don't know.
I don't know. It's called a hero. I don't know. Good book. It's a good movie. Fuck.
Is the movie good?
I think the movie is good. I'm not gonna lie. I think the movie is good. I did have a lot of problems with it when I saw it, but I like it.
Okay. I can't wait. I can't wait for Worm posting soon. Yeah, there was the cheap Sci-Fi Channel Dune show.
Which is actually pretty good.
Yeah, it is. Especially because they got like this really famous British character actor to play Baron Harkonnen, and he's so campy, it's great. I'm trying to remember what his name is because he's in like so much shit, and he's just so good in it.
I think I know who you mean. Ian McNeice?
Yes. And he just is like, because if you know Ian McNeice's content, or acting stuff, he's very camp. He's very like big and over the top, and he's so good in it.
It's content. I love that we're so online that that's just what it is.
It's true. I have tons of trouble in my podcast not referring to episodes of the show as videos. It's terrible. I'm bad.
Let's see if this guy has been in anything that I remember outside of Dune.
He's in the new Foundation show briefly.
I know!
And that show, despite the fact that all of the ingredients are wrong, I'm liking.
Me too!
It's like everything is wrong about this. It doesn't follow the books. It's like made by a guy who has a reputation for ruining things, and I'm like, I'm vibing with this show.
It's good sci-fi shit. I like space stuff. It's not the correct space stuff, but it's space stuff. It's like you're opening up a bag of chips, and it's not the chips that you like, but it's chips.
Yes, and also it has Jared Harris, who is like one of my favorite actors, so... He was in Chernobyl and in Lincoln, and I'm trying to remember what else he was in. What's it called? Gerald? Yeah.
Wait, who are you talking about? Jared Harris?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Because he was in Chernobyl and The Crown and stuff.
Jared Harris and Jeffrey Wright are like two of my favorite actors, and they're in everything these days. It's great. All right, let's see if we can answer some more questions. Ooh, here's our first Christos Nicolau question.
After our lone media segment.
Yeah. Suppose you're enacting radical climate change as a leader. One necessary measure is banning meat or private transport with reasonable exceptions for disabilities and iron deficiencies, obviously. But the majority of the population is against it. You need the measures to heal the earth and have alternatives to introduce soy or buses. Do you go for it or not?
Yeah.
Yes, this is Tucker Carlson's "they're taking your burgers and cars" bull crap, but I do like it as a thought experiment.
Yeah, I'm taking your burgers.
Yeah. I mean, it's a thing that we're going to need to do. I think in my kind of situation, I would think that I would be doing stuff like ramping down the meat industry while using funds and stuff like that to invest in the like meat alternative stuff. Like, yeah. I'd be pouring a ton of money into either like cultured meat or like the kind of Beyond Meat stuff to get that technology up and running. So hopefully, as meat gets phased out, you can have these as like very acceptable, affordable alternatives. And as far as like kind of same thing for cars, like as you start phasing out cars, equally building up public transit, and like I wouldn't do it right away because I think that would be too much, but kind of being like getting rid of gas subsidies, for example, will really need to like change. Like I will need to like you need to move gas subsidies into things like public infrastructure projects so that buses and stuff work better. And on top of that, probably we'll need some sort of public transit thing for renting cars for short term so that you can carry stuff and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I that's all a thing I want to do.
That sounds like a good idea. I'd definitely be like in favor of some sort of like meat tax that would work, and just spending all the money you get from it to invest in meat alternatives.
Yeah, the EU must already have one of those. It feels like a thing the EU would have by now.
Yeah.
Except that Spain did a revolution for Italy does a revolution for the prosciutto tax.
Yeah, that does sound Italian. I mean, we almost did a revolution for snus, so I can see where it's coming from. Mm-hmm. I just think that, like, you know, whenever people talk about like, oh, how bad it is that potentially we may have to eat bugs, and like who are people to take away our meat because it's only companies that are in charge, and it's like I get it, but like people are the ones who are eating the meat. Like it's not like a big corporation that we just like throw meat into. Like there are people who eat the meat, and that meat has to come from cows who need to eat on grass. That's taking up like a third of the earth at this point. Like, so that all fucking sucks.
We could feed 12 billion people with the calories that we grow in grain just to feed livestock.
I know. Like, why the fuck do we do that? And I'm also just like, I'm fine eating bugs. Like, I don't give a shit. I get that some people are like, bugs are gross, they don't want to eat bugs. It's like antithetical to leftism to want to eat bugs or whatever. I honestly don't get what the fuck that, whenever that happens on Twitter. I don't get it. I'll eat. But what's it called? Humanity has changed diets quite a lot, and quite often. Because even like 50, 60 years ago, we didn't eat as much meat as we do today. Just not even close. 100 years ago, we didn't eat as much meat as we do today.
Yeah, like a lot of European staples like soup and stew is about trying to make what little meat you have last as long as possible.
Yeah, exactly. Like this idea that we need to sort of find a way to maintain meat culture, I think is really fucked up. Like I get that like meat alternatives are good, and I think that they are good. I think we should invest in them. But I think there's something just like weird about the fact that like why do we need to maintain such a big portion of our diet in meat? Just in meat. Just like why can't we just make like just
yeah, I'm very much a person who like if I was in the kind of leadership, I don't think changing behavior is one of the harder things to do on a big scale. So in my mind, it's more to get all the meat eaters to just be like, to just settle for Beyond Meat or cultured meat or something like that keeps them happy.
Yeah.
And then, change things otherwise. Like, I think that if the non-flesh meat can get to a point where it's cheaper than regular meat at the grocery store, that you'll start seeing things change pretty quick. Because I don't know about Sweden, but here in Canada, meat's getting goddamn expensive because of COVID.
Oh, I can imagine.
And if you can introduce plant-based meat or like cultured meat as a cheap alternative, I think a lot of people will buy it.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think that's probably the solution that's most practical, right?
Mm-hmm. I think the people who are complaining about bugs and stuff like that, I think it was more that like it was a big thing that like the neoliberals and the UN were pushing as a way to like, we can't get rid of capitalism to solve our climate change problem, so we're just going to make everybody eat bugs instead.
Yeah, and I get that that's like obviously that's a shitty argument, but I feel like that's sort of and and I definitely agree that that's shitty. But I definitely think that like a lot of people have taken that position, which is very reasonable, and like shifted it to the point of like eating bug meat bad.
Yeah,
which is just a huge oversimplification. Like I'll happily eat bug burgers. I don't want to take away steak from anyone, right? Well, I want to take away a little bit of steak, but I don't want to like eliminate steak entirely. Like I'll eat the fucking bug burger. I don't care.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cultures where eating insects is a pretty big part of their diet already, so like chill out. Okay, yeah. I got a $10 super chat from the Good Morty. Thank you, by the way. Quick question. Have you seen the Robin test footage that blew up recently? I really hope it gets picked up for something official.
I have not. What is that?
I haven't seen this either.
I think it's a Robin Williams biopic.
I think it might be like the Holy something Batman thing. Oh, no, it is.
No, it's Robin Williams. I'm looking at test footage right now. Jamie Costa plays... I can't tell if it's CGI or good acting and good makeup. Jamie Costa plays Robin Williams, and it is eerily good in mannerisms.
That's pretty... Yeah, it is pretty good. Oh my god. Okay.
But it's... yeah.
Be fun. I'm not much of a biopic guy, but I imagine that Robin Williams is an important enough person that he deserves a movie.
He definitely deserves. But I want. It feels. I don't know. There's a part of me that just it feels too recent. Like I remember YouTubers making videos about when he died.
But it was 7 years ago.
Yeah, but it's not that long ago. I feel like there's a part of me that's just like, can we just like. Can't we just wait a decade? Like it just feels. I don't know. It's probably nothing wrong with it, but I'm just like. I'm weirded out by the fact that it feels too recent for me.
Did I catch the Good Morty's second $100 super chat right at the end of Tuesday stream? No, I didn't. Holy crap! Thank you, Good Morty. That's wild. Yeah, I do think that. Robin Williams, I don't know, like, maybe, yeah, I'm trying to think when too soon is, because maybe, I feel like maybe if you released it for, like, the 10th anniversary of his death, which would be 2024, that might not be bad. I could roll with that.
Mm-hmm.
I do wonder what kind of story they're going to do. Oh, they're not doing anything right now. It hasn't been picked up, but...
Yeah, it's just a test footage thing, so it would just be. It would just be.
Hi, hello, Tristan.
It could be anything.
Hello. Oh, thank you, Frackle, for the subscription. Much appreciated. Okay. Let's get our next Christos question. All right. Oh boy. Okay, this is Zizek talk. Are you ready for Zizek?
Oh shit! I actually read a bit of Zizek for my most recent video.
I'm so sorry. Oh. I don't know what he said about balls in that piece, but.
God.
So, in one of his talks, perplexing Slavoj Zizek said that in a matter of solution to the racism is progressive racism. Okay, this is going to be unintelligible if I keep that up. And so on and so forth. So, in one of his talks, the perplexing Slavoj Zizek, great description, said that the solution to racism is, quote, progressive racism. He clarifies by using examples of obscene jokes he made in Yugoslavia with his friends, e.g. jokes about Montenegrins being lazy, as a form of shared solidarity. He also said that the response to men making jokes about boning mothers is for women to make jokes about boning fathers, etc. My question is, would this realistically work, and would it work outside the Balkans? There is something particularly Balkans about this exact way of doing things.
Yeah.
How are we going to... somebody once asked Otto von Bismarck what's going to cause the end of racism, and he's going to say some damn fool errand in the Balkans.
I think I honestly think that like there's definitely a part of this, right? Like weird, like because we can't neatly map these social circumstances into like a wider context in a way that like works perfectly neatly. Like there's, like, weirdly enough, there is definitely I definitely think that there is a part of this that like is probably part of it, but I definitely think it's a very individual thing. Right, like it depends on like specific social circles rather than a societal thing. Right, like this doesn't seem like something that could work for everyone, but it definitely it's something that can work like between individuals. I think. Like and I'm not saying it would work for any two individuals. Like I think a lot of people would probably find this like shitty and like offensive. But there will be people who don't.
Yeah, using comedy to kind of build solidarity. I definitely believe in healing the world through comedy. Oh no, that joke was so bad that Mia disappeared. Mia froze.
Oh no, shit. Oh god.
You're back.
Am I back?
Yeah.
Oh, thank god. Cause I'm just thinking about like how my dad would joke with his friends, right? Because my dad is a white guy, who is an atheist, maybe anarchist guy. He's just like a guy. He's a dad. But a lot of his friends are like are Muslim and from the Balkans, and the joke that they make with each other, like you know, a little out of touch dad, like extraordinarily, like you know, not no high school education, works has like gone on a bike throughout Europe and has probably gotten high in a forest multiple times.
A Dutch person,
almost,
yes.
Has almost definitely been part of a biker gang. Like that guy and the friends that he had, very wholesome guy, love him. But like he could not be on Twitter. Like the jokes that he says to his friends and friends say about him, like people would say that they do not belong in a like civilized society. But they don't mind. Like they don't give a shit. They drink some drinks, they have some fun, they build a deck. That's literally what they do. And they say some things that are probably extraordinarily Islamophobic.
Yeah, I think you're hitting on a big internet thing, which is just like the internet has broken down this like distinction where like the difference between what you say, like the kinds of jokes and conversations that you can have with people in like the comfort of your own home with your friends and people who know you and understand you and know your intentions is very different from the ones that you make on a public platform. And the thing is, for a long time, people didn't really have to think about what they said on a public platform because everyone they knew was like friends and people that knew them and they knew and understood where they were coming from. But today, like everybody is putting stuff on platforms where they don't know who you are, they don't know context, they don't know like where you're coming from or who you are, and that leads to all sorts of misunderstandings.
Yeah. And
so there's a time and place.
Yeah, and I definitely think that there is a time and place for that sort of progressive rate. This is the most canceling thing that I've ever said in my entire life, but I hope you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Somebody just pointed out, like, isn't your it's like, say your dad's Dutch, and he was like, no, he's Cuban. As we.
Yeah, my dad's half Cuban. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Like, this is a conspiracy theory that I have and that I'm actually considering asking my dad. Just like, Dad, do you think that maybe your father is actually Fidel Castro? Because like I keep saying this, but like I saw a video of Fidel Castro the other day, and it literally just looked like my dad.
Justin Trudeau is your step cousin. I understand, or your half
No, but
cousin.
like it's actually a little bit concerning. Like the speech mannerisms, the way they move their hands around, like it's actually a little concerning.
Have you ever suspected that your dad is Fidel Castro?
Oh shit, he never died. He retired to Sweden. Lived a double life for a very short amount of time. I can see it.
You're just like what's it called? You're like in his house one day and you find like a what's it called? Like a false back in the closet, and you open it up and there's just like the green uniform and just like a bunch of cigars.
Yeah, bunch of cigars, like weird medals and shit that he's like accrued over the years. He does have a lot of weird medals.
Did he go through some like weird Dutch mandatory conscription thing?
I don't know. I honestly do not know anything. Like my dad's life is a little bit of a mystery to me. I know that I know that he spent some time in Ireland during the Troubles. And that's all I know.
Fun.
Then he mysteriously turned up in Sweden in a forest, high as shit on a bike, on a Harley Davidson.
Makes sense. Yeah, it could just be normal dad energy because I have seen several dictators that I just like, oh, that's my dad.
A lot of dictators just have dad energy. That's
Yeah.
probably why they end up being dictators.
My dad and Comrade Stalin have uncanny resemblance. And actually Saddam Hussein, too.
Now that I do think about it, my dad does have a little bit of Saddam Hussein energy as well.
Yeah. I don't think I look like any dictators, but I'm open to suggestions.
I mean, you might morph into a dictator.
That is true.
Like maybe that's just how. Maybe that's just being a dictator, like as a father to the nation, like shapes you in a way that also same as parenting does.
Yeah, exactly. All right, we got one more. We got some more questions. We got two more questions, and then we actually are caught up, which is a rare thing for us.
Oh, cool, and good timing too.
Yeah. So Mia, the people you were reading about on stream the other day. This is from almost a month ago, so this would have been like sometime in early September.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to be grim, but if you were a young queer bohemian living in Berlin in the 1910s, you were probably still alive when the Nazis came to power 20 years later.
Yeah.
Is this in reference to the, like, bohemian sexology people?
Yes, I read some forced feminization fiction that was written by one of Hirschfeld's patients. It's very horny.
Hirschfeld?
But he-
Horny?
But he cut out the end. Hirschfeld cut off the end because he put the story in his like scientific book, so he cut off the horny ending. He cut off the actual payoff in the forced fem fiction. Like
Wow.
it's all build up. It's all build up about forced feminization, meeting the man, like them getting hot and heavy with each other, and then they go to the bedroom and the story stops.
Yeah, it's edging.
Hirschfeld is edging. Hirschfeld is edging the world.
Hirschfeld's just a
100
little
years after
tease.
He's literally edging the entire academic world 100 years after the book is published.
Yeah, he's next level.
He still got it.
Somebody in the chat just said, my dad has a mustache, therefore he is a dictator. And that reminds me of a great skit I was going to do in undergrad that was, it was going to be Guess Who Dictator Edition. And the joke was going to be like, does he have a mustache? No. And then just like, shh, like knocking all of them over.
Oh my god. By the way, you skipped a sentence. Also, I wondered if we know what happened to them. And unfortunately, we don't. Unfortunately. A lot of... although I should say that like a lot of the stories that were in that book came from people in the UK and in France and in the US. so not all Germans, like they were not all in Germany, like or in Berlin. A lot of them were from before that. Some of them also wrote in these stories like in the late 1800s, in the 1890s and early 1900s, and what am I thinking? We also do know that a lot of the people who were part of the institute did manage to escape to the UK or to England before the outbreak of the war and before the sort of like mass death of the Nazi Empire. But we don't know for sure. We don't know for sure about basically anyone member of that institute except for Hirschfeld himself and like a few employees. We don't really know.
Yeah, a lot of the records of that place were mysteriously burned sometime in the 30s.
Yeah. We do know that he fled to France, and I think he died in France before the war, and his boyfriend fled to Czechoslovakia, but then Czechoslovakia fell to the Nazis as well, and then he sort of like disappeared. So we don't really know that either.
Oof.
Yeah.
All right, we got one last question. Let's see if we can wrap it up in 4 minutes. Earlier today, I listened to an old Radiolab episode about a gay ex-Marine who saved President Ford from being killed by a member of the Manson family. Part of the story is the ex-Marine was an acquaintance of Harvey Milk, and Harvey decided to out him because he thought it'd be good for the movement if people knew a gay man saved the president. How bad a thing was that to do? Like, is it a problem that this never comes up as a terrible thing he did when people tell Harvey Milk's life story?
Pretty shit, isn't it?
Yeah, outing somebody against their will is not only an extreme violation of privacy, but it's like dangerous.
Yeah. You know, like I think we need to remember like historical characters as being sometimes kind of shitty. Like, you know, I talk a lot of shit about Magnus Hirschfeld a lot of the time. Sometimes he has some shitty things. You know, like and even with Harvey Milk. Definitely when we talk about like historical characters that we sort of like look up to and definitely idolize, there's a tendency of wanting to portray them as perfect people, but they're not. No one is. Like everyone has some shitty takes sometimes. And that's not to excuse what he did. Like it is a very shitty thing to do, right? But that's also like that's part of his story. That's just part of a lot of people's story. That like they do shitty things. And that's also like part of their memory in a weird way.
Apparently this person ended up estranged from his family because of this revelation. Yeah, that's the kind of danger you put people in. Yeah, because like one of the like Harvey Milk important for things like this is one of the many reasons why everybody hates Buck Angel, because that was one of the things that he did to one of the Wachowski sisters.
Yeah.
Like yeah, it's very much a no-do, but yeah, also historical figures are, while we think of them as icons, they were in fact human beings who are flawed and don't always conform to what our narrative needs them to be, and therefore that's why history is important, because if you don't investigate these things and talk about these things, then you're just myth-making, and that's bad.
Yeah.
All right, and we are like at 1:59. Perfect. So.
Hell yeah. Good timing for once.
Yeah, we got it. We finished the last question just as the stream ended. Fucking, we're pros. Yeah. So for our last few seconds, please tell everybody where they can consume Mia content one more time.
You can consume Mia content by going to miamulder.com, and it will take you to my YouTube channel where you can watch my videos. I made a video that came out yesterday. It's a bit late compared to when I usually release, but I've been moving. It's a good one. It's about psychiatry. You can also listen to my podcast that I do with a good friend called Leech Fest. It's a medical history podcast. We're currently working on a spooky episode because it's Halloween.
Oh, boy.
And you can also follow my Twitch streams on twitch.tv/miamulder and my tweet on twitter.com/potatopolitics.
Yeah. And we're going to raid one of my favorite online creators. We're going to raid Casey Explosion.
Hell yeah.
If you haven't followed her work, you're in for a good time. Everybody, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and you'll be back on Monday, and we'll be doing this on Monday. So, cheers.